Hello everyone, this is Louis Leyva. We're doing another Culture Cast today. Today we have Maria Singson. She's one of our agents and she's an expert on just about everything and anything. So recently I've been hearing a lot about cryptocurrencies, the Bitcoins, and I wanted to reach out to Maria because she did mention it to me before, what her take was on this whole topic, because I was a skeptic in the beginning and I'm starting to see that it's very mainstream now and it's starting to become to the point where just about everybody and anybody who has a comment or has anything to say is talking about digital currencies. So Maria, could you tell us a little bit about your background and what you know about cryptocurrencies?
Yes, thank you, Louis. So yes, my name is Maria Singson. My background is really in analytics. I've been researching and building models for the financial industry, mostly on credit risk and capital markets. And so nowadays we've also been researching a lot about cryptocurrencies, more so around the emergence of fraud and money laundering and the new types of cases that are now greatly available because of these cryptos.
What is a cryptocurrency, or what is a Bitcoin for those out there who have no idea what we're talking about?
Okay, great. Yes, so cryptocurrencies right now are basically a digital token. So you can't see it, you can't feel it. It lives in your computer, and you can't quite spend it yet like real money. And so what's interesting about it is we're kind of seeing the new era or the dawn of a new quote-unquote type of money. And who would have ever thunk, right, that we would value something we couldn't see and couldn't feel, but yet here it is. And everyone now thinks, being a skeptic before like you, everyone now thinks that it's going to be more and more mainstream. And this is the way to go. It's just that it's going to take some time before things settle down. Okay,
because there's a huge hype right now, because I've seen in the last month or so that the value of a Bitcoin has doubled or more than doubled in price. So that's been doing a lot for its its place in the media right now. Do you think that that's a short-term lived gain, or do you think that's the trend of things to come?
I think
right now it's like $1,700 for one Bitcoin. If you convert it to dollars,
it's actually 17,000.
17,000, sorry, yes. 17,000 for one Bitcoin.
Right.
Yes.
So just a couple of years ago, it was nothing. I mean, you could pick it up for no more than
15 cents.
Exactly. So what's happened is, now the central banks around the world are on it, and so the move is to regulate it more and more. There's about 4,500 quote-unquote altcoins or cryptocurrencies now. So imagine Bitcoin was the first one. So you can liken it to back in the day, 5,000 BC, right? When we first invented quote-unquote trading. And so there was the notion of money, and we were trading everything from goats to sheep to whatever, gold, right? And the first coin wasn't until 700 BC. It's the same phenomenon, right? It's just that everything is digital, and it makes it so exciting, because I never thought that I would witness something like this in my day here on this planet. So, but it's gonna take some time to regulate it. So the volatility is there. It's so sensitive to hype and sentiment and speculations. I saw just yesterday some correlational studies that somebody did with stocks, and of course it's like comparing apples and oranges, because these are coins and so on, and there is no correlation. But it's got to settle down more. But it's already being accepted because of the high return that somebody's seeing. And so, you put in some money right now, and it's not like you got to trade it, because that's the instinct. right? So it's like, okay, I'm gonna make money. And so you get on there, you buy one Bitcoin, let's say, or one coin, and you're there. The first instinct is to keep watching it because of the fascination that it'll grow.
Over value or something.
You just need to relax would be probably my advice to folks right now, because all it's going to do is appreciate. I think there's a lot more room for it to appreciate before it starts deflating.
Do you think it could be a huge bubble in cryptocurrencies where kind of like, I don't know if you're familiar with the tulip craze, where everyone was buying tulips and it went skyrocket, but there was no real value, there was no intrinsic value behind it, and it was just people hyping up the value, or like the stock market in the 20s. Do you think it's something akin to that, or do you think it's something totally different that actually has a lot of value and makes total sense?
If we didn't have the digitalization of everything that's happening right now, I would say it's really a tulip phenomenon. However, when you take a look at the Internet of Things and everything else that's happening, there is only it's pointing to one direction. And so at some point, the currencies that we have, right, are not going to sustain our needs in order to get to those products or get on those platforms, let alone the poverty that a lot of us have experienced. So when you look at the different countries, look at Venezuela right now, right? Venezuela would be pretty soon the #1 crypto trader, right? Because their money has no value anymore, and they've given hope. And so this is more like hope, which again goes with tulip, but at the same time, they have to live. So it's very real on the back end.
Do you think that cryptocurrencies are safer, or are they more dangerous than trading in actual dollars?
For someone who is not as much a risk taker as the next person, cryptocurrencies are not safer by any means, because once you get past the idea of the actual currency, your main worry right now should really be the exchange. The exchanges that are operating out there, because there are a lot more fraudulent exchanges than coins.
Yeah, what I mean by that is, could someone literally get kidnapped and held for ransom with Bitcoin, since it's not traceable? I think that's one of its many features, is that it can't be traced once it's given to someone or traded or something like that. I'm not sure if I'm just assuming this, or is this some...
There was a case just last week. It was in New York. So 2 friends, and one friend invested in a coin that took off and the other one didn't have as much yield, and so he held the friend at gunpoint so that he can transfer over
his coins.
Right. And so that went down as at least all the articles were saying, as one of the most quote unquote unsophisticated robberies of all time, because you could actually trace it. Okay. Yeah, so it's safe in that sense. But yes, so people are still, you're never gonna get rid of bad intent and malicious.
But you can literally bypass the IRS if you're trading with cryptocurrencies, can't you? Because they really, if you wanted to hide the transaction, you could, or no?
Yes, that's why.
I'm not giving anyone an idea, but I'm just saying there's some, some holes in the, the
there
equation.
There are a lot of holes, and that's why it's pretty much a big party for money launderers right now.
I could assume.
And that's also why the central banks, the economists are starting to get involved. I was very surprised when Janet Yellen the other day said, we have nothing to do with it, because I think that's
not true.
Yeah, I think it's not true, or it's burying your head in the sand. But just as we were inventing coins back 5000 BC, this is more of an experimental medium right now where anything can go, right? And so that includes the crime that are involved in this.
Yeah, a lot of good can come out of it as well, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
A lot of things can be more done easily. Third world countries can come up to par, I guess, with everyone.
Yeah.
I don't know, would this bring forth one world currency? Do you think that this would be something akin to that?
I'm sorry, which one?
Do you think that this could lead the way to a one world currency?
Yes, probably faster than we could have ever imagined that the euro was, would take off for Europe, and now look at where it is now, right? So it'll have the ups and downs. We'll probably see the ups and downs a little faster in terms of rates.
Yeah.
But right now, the fascination is to have a coin for everything. So the 4,500 or so coins that exist today, I mean, there's some of those are for not so good things, because all of this originated in the dark web.
Yeah.
So it's things that you can't really say you're buying with real money before. And then they just evolved to being coins. And the thing is, it's catching on because it's so easy to trade. So it's more around remittances. So you go to the Philippines, to Guatemala, to Mexico, to everywhere and anywhere where you have a lot of domestic helpers or laborers that are working here or in the developed countries. It's so easy for them to get a hold of their money, or much more faster than before. And so that's what's amazing about it, and I think that's going to be a big driver as to how it'll catch on.
Sure. Now, one thing that attracted me to Bitcoin is that someone said that only 21 million Bitcoin can ever be in existence, and that's all that would be mined. I think the equation only calls for that. But if there's 4,500 different coins that are coming out, doesn't that devalue, I guess, the system it's in itself? Instead of creating more Bitcoin, you're creating Litecoin or EXTR, whatever, so many different Bitcoins that who's to know which one should have value, which one shouldn't have value? Isn't it kind of like almost very confusing for the normal person to ever keep up with?
Yep, it's very confusing even for the quote-unquote experts. So that's why it's so propped up by speculation right now. And so you gotta start, the normal person will have to learn ultimately to look into the quote-unquote, what we would compare when we look at stocks as fundamentals, right? So you trace it back to who's actually creating these coins, and what's their technology, and how's their technology better than the Bitcoin technology, and so on, right? So that's how you would think Ethereum, which can pack in not just coin or money, but actually things and data, right? So that's how they've gotten their valuation over Bitcoin. And then there's Litecoin, which is supposedly, according to the name, lighter, and you can trade it faster and so on. And when you look at the next, I would say 10 coins that are emerging, it's all about how fast they can transmit. But it's still, I would not be so concerned about that, because we've already seen as proof of concept through Bitcoin and Ethereum and Litecoin that at least with those three, you're gonna have an upward trend for a while. What's really something that's worth warning and educating the consumer right now is around the platform that they choose to trade, because they're so unregulated that you may think like you're all happy that your investment has skyrocketed and you have so much money. As soon as you try and take it out, you might realize you can't, or that so then you start feeling like, oh my gosh, I've never been this rich, but now
it's not liquid.
Right. Yeah. So it's a misperception that you can take money easily.
Now, since the currency is increasing so highly, doesn't that also create some type of hoarding mentality where people don't actually want to trade the coins, they want to hold the coins? And wouldn't that bring the value, I guess, down again? Or if it's not being used for currency, it's being used as an asset?
I think we have enough what they call whales out there that do pump and dump.
Okay.
And it's this is their business. Yeah. So they'll pump it and then they'll extract it. Right. So I wouldn't worry about that. I think it actually benefits the ones who can resist selling. Right.
That's true. So if I'm a home seller and I have no mortgage on my house, right? The $1 million question is, should I sell my house in cryptocurrency, in Bitcoin, Litecoin, one of those coins, is that a benefit, do you think, for the person selling the home? Or do you think that that's a really bad move for someone that's selling a home?
If I were selling my home right now and I can get paid with cryptos, I would take it, especially if I have no mortgage on it and I don't really need the money. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think there are some cases of that happening, and I'm wondering if that was purely speculation or it was just like a roll of the dice or there was some science behind it. But I think that would be a great move for someone, like you said, who doesn't in a position to have to do so. But the problem there would be finding the buyer who has enough Bitcoin to buy your house.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I remember when Bitcoin first came out, there was all types of marketplace coming out where you could buy pizza with Bitcoin. Everyone's like, I can buy pizza. There were real estate companies who were taking commissions in Bitcoins. And I thought these people were crazy. But if you would have done that back then, 2-3 years ago, I mean, now you could be a millionaire in Bitcoin. You know, I think those two Facebook twins, I think they're the first Bitcoin billionaires now. I forget their names, but it's amazing how what this has done. But I still tend to think that it's going to have to come back down before it eventually does go to where they think it is. Nothing ever goes straight up, as you know, in history, nothing has ever done that. But I do think there's some value there, but I do think that nothing is ever going to happen without the government getting involved. So I think with that, you're 100% right. So whether they decide to take one of these currencies and convert it to their own, or take the science and the data and make the new US dollar, aka crypto dollar, you know, and then that's the new, whatever, that's a new currency that you're going to use in the States. But what I've noticed that with currency is that number one, it has to have some kind of intrinsic value, so everyone has to be on board, right?
Yeah.
The government has to be obviously backing it, right? And you have to be regulated by the Fed or some kind of world banks to make sure that this is going to be an accepted way of doing it. I think the cryptocurrencies may be a long way from getting all that political backing, and I think it's still kind of like what you said, maybe something that's being traded sometimes like as gold or like a commodity, the gold or silver gets traded, from person to person, or even sometimes through the market, ETFs and options and those things. And that's what they're doing now. They're creating these ETFs for Bitcoins and Litecoins and all these cryptos, which I think is cool, because for someone who can't get their hands on the actual thing, they can go into something that's pegged to it and then maybe trade that and get out of that quicker, right? So
I actually, this is Christmas season, so some of the gifts that I have bought for relatives, especially the teenagers in the family, there's this card now called Stockpile, and so it used to be able to give you stocks in fractions, just like Bitcoin, right? And now they just started doing Bitcoin, so it's a good intro for kids to get into. So that'll be in their big box, and it's a fake wrapping, but it's a little card that shows up. So it's just amazing. And as far as these old institutions, so you look at the banks, right? The banks have taken heat since 2008 during the bubble burst, right? And then they managed to find a little startups who were doing digital lending and peer-to-peer lending and so on. So I was just at that conference last month, and they're now talking about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies because they're late in the game themselves. And so it's like, okay, so how do we start lending through these platforms that we have? Because all of a sudden everybody's kind of outgrown the credit world. And so now it's like, how do you lend to someone who, when you ask them, where are you going to use this money? Oh, I'm going to use it to buy cryptos. And they're getting good returns. And so if you don't join into the craze, you're left behind and you lose out. So, it's finding the balance for everyone right now.
Exactly. Okay, so for anyone out there thinking about getting into the cryptocurrency space, I think that right now just dip your toe, because it's too soon to really make that kind of a prediction. But you don't make any money unless you risk some money. So if there's some money you're willing to lose, I think the cryptos may be a good idea. I have a friend who does data mining, and he's done exceptionally well. I think he bought 4 Bitcoin at like $200 a piece or $100 a piece, and Now he's like, dude, I got almost 100 grand in
Yeah.
Bitcoin, just because of those 4 little things he did. And that's what it takes sometimes. You gotta take some risk in life to get ahead. So hopefully if you're watching this, you get some information on what Bitcoins are, what cryptos are, and it'll give you a little know-how, and hopefully we see some more of this in the future.
Great.
Thank you, Maria. It was a
Thank you.
pleasure. Thank you, guys.